Hi, my name's Loretta Mazukin and I'm the high school IB art teacher here at ACS. As you know, this year has been quite a strange one indeed, but despite all the pandemic kind of craziness, the hybrid models, the remote learning, etc., I think you will agree with me that students performed excellently, and the works that they came up with are just magnificent. We have transformed the cafeteria into what I think you will all agree is a wonderful art gallery space. So come along with me. In the first space here we have Romy Khayat, who is a higher level, and her theme is basically revolving around constructivism and deconstructive, architecturally based. As you may know, this is not a collection of all the artworks over the course of 2 years. It is curated, so students select their most highly technical and sound pieces and ones that revolve around their theme.
The meaning of my artwork is focused on deconstructivism and constructivism in architecture. And I am inspired by traditions in my culture, traditions in other cultures, and I'm inspired by current events as well. Okay, so this piece is more personal to me than other pieces. It has more Lebanese culture, as you can see with the cup. That's a very Lebanese coffee cup, and these windows are very traditional in Lebanon, in the old houses. And also the tripartite arcade is the typical window that you would see when visiting Lebanon. I worked a lot on this with a range of mixed media, so I also incorporated a very colorful palette that reflects me. So I used oil on wood first to do my portrait, and I decided that I wanted to also have an opening and closing window shutter to add like a three-dimensional element to it. And I used resin, clay, acrylic, pieces of acetate, colored acetate, gold gilt, and colored beads. And for the background here, for the facade of the building, I also used a three-dimensional wallpaper of bricks, and I painted it in beige. My future plans are to major in architecture, and I want to continue my passion of art on the side, so yeah. I've been at ACS since the 6th grade, and it's been about 6.5 years at ACS, and I think that ACS has brought me closer to art, and I was able to focus more on my passion, and was able to develop it, and I got closer to it. And I think that will help me in the future, because if I hadn't been at ACS, I don't think I would know that I would want to do architecture. So it helped me find what I want to do in the future.
Following Romy, we have Aarnav Patel, who's also higher level, and his work kind of revolves around his Indian cultural identity and his third culture kid kind of status, and how he feels sometimes a little bit of chagrin as he has lost some of his cultural identity, perhaps not understanding Gujarati or how to write it or speak it, things like that, nuances of the culture, religion, and so on.
The meaning is really about how my navigation through understanding the Indian culture. Throughout my body of works, I explore this idea of what culture means to me, especially with the Indian culture. And in this specific piece, these are all my face, but on each of these figures, but they're all distorted. And it's supposed to talk about how there's this conflict constantly going on about what I deem is proper for the Indian culture versus what I deem is not. So like the chessboard that's in the piece, the figures are actually also in their own battle. I mainly used acrylic when making this piece, acrylic paint, and however, what was most challenging was I worked backwards rather than going from the background and adding layers on top of each other. I actually made the orange background as my last layer, and that made the faces of all my figures. And then I went in with charcoal and drew in the details of my faces and started to build this kind of scenery from these shapes that I created as the last layer. Future plans, hopefully college for sure. Definitely want to explore art outside of fine arts and in its applications in technology, science. So hopefully I get into a college where I can explore that and get great opportunities and co-op opportunities to do so. ACS, I've been here since first grade, and it's been a long journey. I never would have thought that I would have ended in the year how it has been, but this gallery is truly like more than I would have expected. This is an amazing space. ACS has always been there in facilitating my interest for art ever since elementary school, not only in the curriculum, but with after-school activities. And as I got into high school, they focused more on what's outside the world, and it's more than just what's on a test, a question on the test, but really what you want to do when you grow up. And ACS has always been there since.
Then we have our third higher level, which is Lamis Gharzeddine. And Lamis is very, very passionate about the environment. She's very concerned about pollution and how it is destroying our planet. So you will find that most of her work encompasses some parts of that theme. She uses a lot of junk in her work. You can see this trio sculpture of undersea creatures is completely comprised of junk to kind of represent that they are drowning in the human pollution.
So my this art piece is supposed to be almost like a parody version of what hunters do when they go out and they try to put up their trophy of their collection of pieces, though this is also supposed to show what we will be seeing in the future with our oceans as marine animals are surrounded by this plastic and are consuming this plastic to the point where all that we will have left of them is our creation of pollution. So throughout all my pieces, and obviously with this one, I'm trying to show this message of pollution that we're causing to our environment, whether it be through trash, which is like marine life, causing harm to the marine life, or whether it be through any other form of pollution. But I'm just trying to show that we are having a massive impact to our environment, and it's not a healthy impact. My future plans after ACS is I plan on going to university and studying architecture and hopefully looking more into sustainable architecture. Obviously, I'm very passionate about sustainability and the environment, and ACS has really helped me with that, as in my previous schools, they didn't have many sustainability committees or events that allowed me to educate myself on what we're doing to our environment, and ACS has really allowed me to push my boundaries and really explore this massive field and really put my voice out there, whether it be through my artworks or through my classes, and learning different ways that we've impacted our environment.
And then we have standard level, we have Emilia Stever, and she is very, very focused on her journey over the past 8 years, kind of a story of her emotional state and how she evolved from a kind of very depressed state into a very more happy and positive note. So you will see there's some more darkness and more angst, and then it lightens up with a beautiful sunset at the end.
So this painting is actually, hot beverages are very important in my culture, and so they contain a very strong meaning towards warmth and family and socialization, as well as just happier times in your life. So this picture that I took was on a late night where it was just basically a reflection late at night about my life, where it's going, what I value, and those kinds of things. And for me, the thing that I very much value is in the center of the teacup, which is my home and the little pieces of life that make it more beautiful and make it more relaxing and tranquil, rather than just looking at all the negative aspects of life itself. So this entire space is actually a chronological story of my recovery after dealing with depression for about 8 years, as well as social anxiety. And it starts with actually a very sinister and very sad like moment, basically, where I decided this is the day I'm going to die, and it ends with the ending of my recovery in terms of like the late night, where I decided that the warmer things are better to live for. I would like to go into genetic engineering for conservation, so just looking at corals and how we can save our ecosystem through GMOs. There's a very competitive atmosphere at ACS, which definitely helps a lot of students in succeeding in their future years. As although we always say like, oh, education is something for yourself, it is in the end of the day a competition, and the job market is a competition, and you will only achieve it if you basically push yourself, not to be the very best that you can be, just to bring out your full potential and in the end kind of reign over others, I guess.
Over here we have Micaela Felix, who's also standard level, and Micaela's work kind of evolves around her passions and her kind of story of life. There's always a little bit of an element of frivolity in there, especially with butterflies, and quite a different use of media, mixed media.
For this piece, it was kind of about separation, is about two people going their separate ways, and the overall like meaning and theme of my art show was about aesthetics of my life, focusing on telling a story. For this one, I did a silk screen and acrylic flow. So for the background, it was an acrylic flow, so I put paint, different colors of paint in a cup, and I flipped it so that it would kind of look like a wash. And then for the people, I did a silk screen, so I cut out the silhouette of each person and then printed it on. And then for the teardrop, I used resin, so it kind of looked a little shinier, looked like water. Overall, I kind of just wanted to tell a story throughout each of my pieces about like my life. My future plans are to study architecture at university next year. I've been at ACS for 6 years, and I think it's shaped me to the person I am today. Having moved around a lot throughout my whole life, it's made me build character. Just being at the school, they teach us a lot of things that they don't teach you at other schools. So I think it's prepared me for the outside world and is giving me skills that I'm pretty sure I'll be able to use next year at university.
Finally, we have two more, a standard level Shahad Al Nuwais. And Shahad takes us on a journey of her interests, and she's primarily interested in her shoes. She's very, very obsessed with shoes. And then she's also very, very into her family and the environment. And so she has travels, and she has friends, family friends, and then she finally culminates into environmental issues as well.
So this piece is inspired by my love for shoes. So ever since I was younger, I used to collect shoes, whether those were high-end or just a normal pair of shoes, like a normal pair of those Nikes. And yeah, that's basically the meaning behind it. So for the main painting, I used oil paint, as I used acrylic in most of my other paintings. So I didn't want to use acrylic in this one. And for the two pairs of shoes, I used markers and acrylic leather paint. And the painting took way longer than the actual pairs of shoes, as there was more details in it. Like in the steps here for the tiles, it took me longer than the actual shoe itself. So this painting conveys that one of my favorite things about fashion is shoes. And so in the fashion industry, I feel like, for me at least, shoes are the most important when it comes to styling. It just brings the outfit more vibrant and better. After ACS, I'm planning on studying in the US, and I was actually planning on studying art. So yeah, drawing and painting. So yeah, that's interesting for me. So I've been at ACS since KG2, so that's pretty long. When I first came to ACS, I knew how to speak English, but I didn't know like much vocabulary. So ACS helped me to increase my vocabulary, and it also helped me to collaborate more with other people, like everyone in the community.
Last but not least is our standard level Anushka Thakurta. And Anushka takes us on a mini vacation with postcards from around the world. So Anushka has lived in many different countries and has traveled extensively. So you will see a smattering of different countries, from India to China, Hong Kong, to Italy, to France, to India again, and to Europe and Italy again. So she's used a broad array of different media and has arranged them kind of as a little picture postcard trip for you all.
This is a painting of Hong Kong because I used to live there, and it cultivated the studio that I have with me today. The process behind that artwork was I had a stretched canvas and I wanted to put velvet on top of it, and therefore use different techniques such as like palette knives and all, and create this piece. So the idea behind my exhibition is postcards from all around the world. So my experiences and the places I've traveled to that cultivate and foster, I guess, the artwork that I'm inspired by and want to create. In the future, I plan to study for law. However, I really love art, so it's definitely going to be my passion, and I'm going to continue it on like the side. I feel like they've given me a really strong foundation to create my art. I guess the support I've received from my teachers, Ms. Mizukin and Ms. Sima, has been incredible, and I really appreciate everything that I've learned, and specifically how I've learned to like push through like circumstances that I wouldn't have predicted before and still create something beautiful.
All in all, I think that you will be amazed, as I am, at the wonderful work that has been presented. I'm very, very proud of the students. Unfortunately, we couldn't see you in person, but hopefully you get a feeling of what the space is like and get a chance to experience it virtually. Have a great day.